Hello, friends. Welcome to my show, Musings with Thomas Abraham. And I have with me today my dear friend Pallav Sinha, with whom I'm going to have an interesting conversation. Now, Pallav and me were together at St. Stephen's College many years ago, and we were also did our MBA together at FMS in Delhi. But very interestingly, we also did an amazing trek deep into Jammu and Kashmir many years ago during our MBA days. But today we're not here to talk about the past, but something very exciting that Pallav has launched very recently. And this is the book that Pallav created and launched very recently, and it's titled A to Z of Corporate Success Secrets in 20 Quick Mantras. Now we'll dive deep into the book. But before that, let's take a pause and let me welcome Pallav. And maybe Pallav, you could tell us a little bit about yourself for the benefit of the audience.
Thomas, you forgot to mention one thing, which is that we also worked in Amex together.
Oh,
so
yeah,
not just
absolutely.
studied, and of course we did that fabulous trek. And just recently I did a trek where I summited Kilimanjaro.
Fantastic.
And so that's a theme that comes across a lot of my writings.
Yeah.
But just by way of introduction, I spent many years in the corporate world, with Citi as the CEO of a JV of Morgan Stanley in India, and then with Fullerton, which is a Temasek company. And now I'm an ex-corporate person, and I have truly embraced the X in the sense that there's nothing that I do operationally as a business executive, but I remain a keen observer of business. Yeah. And that is what this book, which is A to Z of Corporate Success Secrets in 20 Quick Mantras, and as you all would have guessed from the title, it is a satire, talks about, and I'll be delighted to share a little bit about that as we speak.
Yeah, so Pallav, I sort of noticed that Shashi Tharoor has written the foreword, and I actually read the book twice over. And I must tell you that you should read this book not just for the 20 quick mantras, but also to improve your English language. And I think Pallav has taken a cue from Mr. Tharoor himself. So Pallav, tell me what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I think the first thing is that I felt with my own experience that it is very important for people who've been through this corporate journey to make the journey a little more interesting, a little more fun for the younger lot who are going through it. And that's the objective of this book. And as Mr. Tharoor's foreword mentions, I've tried to sort of put a lens on the opposing forces. The book is full of ironies, and the ironies dwell on the dilemmas that typically people face in the corporate world. In today's world, we love to take positions to either extreme, right? We are polarized. Whereas the reality is that the truth is quite often complex. And that is what it is about. It is about looking at how these opposing forces find equilibrium in the real world. It reminds me of a metaphor in a quote from Fitzgerald, which said that the sort of sign of a very intelligent mind is the ability to hold two opposing thoughts and still retain the ability to function. Yeah. And that is what you've been in the corporate world, and a lot of your viewers are doing that, and they realize that it is always people think that the corporate world is full of greed, right. And it's not absolutely untrue. There is a little bit of greed, but it's also responsible for the greatest innovations of mankind. Yeah, so that is what I've tried to show in this book, and that's been my inspiration.
Yeah. So Pallav, I think leadership as a theme has emerged across many of these mantras that you talk about. Yeah. And I know there are opposing views that you put in your own style. And the question you've really asked is what kind of a leader would you want to be? So, we all know of so many aspiring professionals. We know of so many people who aspiring entrepreneurs. So, what are some leadership guidelines that you might want to share for some of these folks? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the one learning that I have looking back in my own experience in the corporate world is that it's very, very important to be authentic, right? We always try and mimic somebody who might be your idol. And the reality is that we all come with a unique set of skills. So being authentic is absolutely critical. The other thing I feel is that you have to go beyond BS. And by that I don't mean just bullshit, I also mean the balance sheet. So quite often, and that's again an aspect of this book, people make it very quantitative, very rigid. And that's important, it's not just about data and analytics, it's also about feelings, emotions, perception. So I would say, leadership is about a fine balance between perspective
Yeah.
and perception. Perception being what you bring to the table.
Right. Correct.
So that's what I think that, being authentic is important, and also remembering that this is about sacrifice. It's not easy to be a leader. It needs a lot of hard work and sacrifice. Those are some of the sort of basic tenets that I would touch upon.
Yeah. So, Pallav, if you look at the entire leadership ethos over many years, I think in the early days when all of us started our corporate career, we had a lot of leaders who were like heavyweights, who were larger than life figures, and very often they dictated and everybody executed, right? And then all that changed. I think there was a huge change during the pandemic, actually, when suddenly it turned the other way around and everybody spoke about 100% participative leadership. It was all about empathy, leaders having empathy. It was, in fact, a lot of leadership gurus also wrote about employees first, customers second. I have come across lots of articles and stories around that. Now again, we are moving into a stage where globally, if you look at it, a lot of countries start looking inwards. Now, would that also, in a way, influence leaders in their management styles, in their leadership styles? Because they are facing headwinds in the economy, global economy, and so on and so forth. So, are we again going to be seeing a little more of authoritative kind of style of leadership, in your view? I mean, this is just for debate.
Excellent question, and that's one of the things that fascinates me. Is that the lesser heroes, right? I mean, people that have contributed immensely, but you don't hear of them. Those are the real stories that need telling, right? I mean, if you look at the IT sector, FC Kohli of TCS, or today India has one of the finest financial services system, equities market, and there was a gentleman called R.H. Patil who set up an NSE. And I think, harking back to what you talked of, people like from the very sort of larger than life leaders to people like Satya Nadella, who've been almost like not just innovators but servant leaders. There is this. This is always going to change, and it's I think I would stay away from predicting what sort of leaders are going to emerge. But it's as I said, it'll be fun observing how leadership styles evolve.
So let's take a quick break from a chat, and perhaps you could read us a passage from your book.
Absolutely.
Just for the benefit of our viewers.
So this book, incidentally, is also in verse. And it's got lots of comic images. And the idea behind that was that, most of the books on management tend to be quite boring, quite based on models.
Yeah.
And I wanted this to be a little bit of a lyrical story, which left a lot to your interpretation, but also, left enough food for thought. So maybe the one I'm going to read you now is something on scams. One keeps hearing about scams all the time in the corporate world, and this is so the book really covers pretty much the whole gamut from finance to marketing to boards, and this one's on scams. And just by way of a quick background, the first sort of corporate scam that one hears of is what is called the South Sea bubble.
Yeah.
So this refers to that. A more recent one was the 2008 financial crisis, where Lehman Brothers were involved, and then you're the man from the tech world, so there's a lot in that with FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried, and I'll talk about that also. So here goes. This is called Damn the Scams.
Yeah.
Business makes money attracting swindlers like honey. Insiders, outsiders, and bestriders. Gaming the system like joyriders. Then there's a chorus. Straight and narrow path not taken. Lust, greed, and subprime alchemy. Did it start with the South Sea bubbling or the New Age Lehman tumbling? Jeff Skilling's Enron ride was thrilling. Smart little Liz Holmes a loss in the resplendent story of Theranos. McKinsey's Rajat was once white as lily, but he did trip and look downright silly. Tally ho, tally ho, tally ho, hold your horses, don't just go. LBOs, CDOs, and cryptos, all of which can stub your toes. Mumbo jumbo gets the dumbos, it's a daisy chain of greater fools. Chuck, the prince of city, said, keep dancing till the music ends. Crypto stories like FTX, inky darkness post special effects, governance, regs, and compliance are those for those who lack the spine for defiance. Epstein, Madoff, and Wirecard fraud, were they ever worth the reward? Then I'll skip the chorus and move to the next part. Before you ride the tiger or stop being a striver, remember it's a sugar rush, just another kind of drug. Choose a diet of humble pie, which will always keep you dry. But if you choose to be a whale, you're then too big to fail. Keep dancing till the music plays in the hope of sunnier days.
Yeah, amazing, Pallav, and this has actually inspired me to put some music to it.
Okay.
Right? So because you said verse, chorus, it just triggered that, hey, and it's very lyrical. So I think I'll take it upon myself as an exercise to put some music to some of these mantras.
Love to hear it.
Yeah, and then we should sing them together.
Well, you wouldn't want me singing.
So let's move from scams to success, which is another mantra that you talk about. And you've written here saying that commit yourself to success and success will find you. So what is, you've been in different roles, you've run companies, you've been a startup entrepreneur. So what does success mean to you?
Success to me is this recursive process of learning from failures. Even the most successful person would probably face failure 80-90% of the time. So, if you're able to master that recursive process of learning from your failures, you're successful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think success means different things to different people. For some people, it means having a really busy life, becoming the center of attention. For others, it is, a quieter life with the family. They're both different kinds of success. And, some beautiful lines in Hindi, which I'm reminded of whenever I think of this is, उन्हें कामयाबी में सुकून नजर आया तो वो दौड़ते रहे हमें सुकून में कामयाबी नजर आई तो हम रुक गए which means that it depends different strokes to different folks right? And also, I think Kipling said it very well when he said that if you look at both success and failure,
Yeah.
and you're able to handle them with the same level of equanimity,
Yeah.
you're successful.
Yeah.
So I think that to me is the essence of being successful, continuously learning, finding your groove, right?
Yeah,
We all coming back to that point of perception and perspective. You have to bring your aspect of success to your story.
Correct. And I want to link now success to another thing that you brought about, which is social media, right?
Yeah.
And you speak about social media salvation, and I think your principle here in a way resonates, and it says that a lot of people feel that the perception that you create in social media is equivalent to success, right? And you talk about the 10-90-1 rule, which is that 10% of the people who account for 90% of the social media posts can take credit for no more than 1% of the work done. Now, a lot of folks would be quite upset listening to that, because I think today people are busy with social media, and I think they see that as a way of engaging and what have you.
Yeah.
So, how would you really respond to that?
I think that's a very, very pertinent question. And I don't think in today's world you can tell people to be secluded from social media, right? There's some people who are very active, there are others who are not very active in posting, but they are always there looking at things. So, there's something very interesting I read which sort of resonated with me, which is that a lot of things which are successful on social media are what is called mimetic, which really means that these are ideas that have the ability to spread. They go viral because either they have rage, they have sentiments like that, or they have, something which is quite outrageous. I feel that it is very important for most people to be in social media, because that's also a way of consuming news. It's a way to do various things. It's part of life. But maybe the secret is to be anti-mimetic, which means that instead of trying to look for viral things and chasing likes, we have to really see things which are authentic, which can appeal to a smaller group of people and get you the engagement with a smaller group of people, not 100, 200 likes. But so, anti-mimetic ideas, in fact, are ideas worth spreading. They're not ideas that spread naturally, but they're ideas worth, because they take a lot of energy to sort of, understand and be able to sort of make sense of it.
That's right.
So that's my thought.
So I just wanted to focus a little bit around business social media. I mean, which is more around LinkedIn and maybe X and a few other things like that. So linked to that is the concept of personal branding, which is becoming important. I think a lot of people believe that apart from the company that they work for, or the organization that work for, who naturally need to build their brand, it's important for individuals to also build their brand, right? I mean, looking purely from a business angle. And that's something that I, when I mentor entrepreneurs and young people, and people talk to me, one of the questions I ask them is that, how active are you on LinkedIn? And, very often I hear that most people are not there. So it's a very small percentage of people who are there. But it does give you an opportunity for you to become a thought leader. I know a lot of people are using AI these days to post. Many people are just picking popular articles and taking snippets from that and showing it as their ideas or what have you, just to get some runway. But I think it does offer an opportunity for people to do something original. So, what are your thoughts around personal branding?
So I think with that same theme, it's not necessary that you create a brand which is out there and in your face, right? I mean, if your brand is a little more reserved, then there's a different way to approach it. But maybe the sort of a succinct summary of what I heard you say, and I agree with it to a great extent, is that you find whenever there is something important, something unique that you have to say, by all means say it, right? But you don't, and that's where I feel that trying to figure out what the algorithm is and trying to beat the algorithm is a mug's game, right? Because then it's what is mimetic, you'll get the likes, but I think like a lot of what you do, and I'm not saying that because we are talking here, is that there is a unique thought. You make the effort of finding people who have unique stories to say or relate, and then creating something around that. It might just get you engagement with 50 people, but the depth of engagement might be far more meaningful than reaching 1,000 people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I now want to move on to something which is linked to that, which is staying in your comfort zone, and you talk about that in one of your mantras, where you say no pain, no gain as well, right? So I think when I look back at a lot of people, there are some people who stayed in their comfort zone. And a small example being working, let's say, in a bank, and you've stayed in that bank all your life. Now you've reached a great position. Now there are some others who moved between, but stayed in financial services. Some others who moved between industries. So what's your nuggets of wisdom that you would like to give to some young folks about?
Well, I don't know whether it's nuggets of wisdom, but I think it's a basic fact of life that you need a little bit of friction. Or what is called desired difficulty, right? If there was no friction, we wouldn't be able to walk, right? So, and I think the human tendency of conserving energy is that you try and avoid friction. So it's not necessary, in my view, that you have to change from banking to something else to experience that friction and comfort and to go out of the comfort zone. But I think, like curiosity, stepping out of your comfort zone is very critical, right? And like curiosity, it's not just for young people in industry, but even for people like us, right? Old fogies. And that's one of the reasons why I trek and I really push myself, because you could do a very sort of plush holiday, but the kind of experiences you get when you're going through a difficult time or where there's stress is just unique. And it's a key to living well.
One of the other topics that you bring up in your book is around brand ambassadors. And today, so I'm a little curious because I'm not fully convinced that brand ambassadors work. It seems to me that a lot of companies have FOMO. Companies have FOMO. I mean, they say my competitor is using so and so, this Rohit Sharma as a brand ambassador. I should use Virat Kohli or Bumrah or something like that, right? I haven't really come across any empirical study which shows that because of the use of a brand ambassador, there has been a greater revenue that has been generated in a particular organization. So what's your general take on and number one? Number two, we can't really recall who's done what, because these brand ambassadors are doing so many brands, so it's really tough. People often get muddled unless you're an advertising person to really figure out who's supporting which particular brand. So what's your take on that?
You're absolutely right. I think context matters, right? So in my view, if you use a celebrity and I think you're referring more to celebrities as brand ambassadors, in a context that is relevant, it works, right? So for instance, if you think of Shaq O'Neal working now with Reebok, he's super involved, right? And he's trying to, he's sort of thinking about it, and you will, like Nike and Jordan, I think at some stage Shaq and Reebok will be great and he'll be great for the brand. But as you said, just mimicking somebody else because they've done it, and if now another shoe brand goes and gets somebody like O'Neal, and it may not have the same level of impact. I do think that celebrity advertising, when done right, has impact. And that is why it is very important for celebrities to be far more aware of what they advertise. And it's not just about monetizing, and you can't go and do advertising for a good car and get away with it. I think that way, one story that remains with me forever is that after P. Gopichand won the All England badminton championship, and he came back, and Coke wanted him to do the advertising, and he refused. He said, "I don't think people should drink sodas like this." So I think celebrities need to be far more responsible.
Yes.
And at the same time, I think it does work in a certain context.
Yeah.
So you've got to take it in that.
Correct. Yeah. So finally, I think you've been a startup founder. I'm in the startup world. And you talk about startup, non-starters. So I want to just link that to corporate executives, senior corporate leaders. You've been a senior corporate leader who set up a startup. I've been a senior corporate leader. I've been in this particular space. But in general, we see a lot of corporate leaders wanting to become startup founders. So, and it's not that easy making that transition, right? Because the world is totally different. So what are some learnings that you have which might help our viewers, that if you're a corporate leader, I want to become a startup founder, what are some 2 or 3 things that I should keep in mind to hit that path?
I think it's not an easy transition, as you said, especially if you come from a large corporate, and sometimes you try and recreate all those controls and risk management, and not to say they're not important, but they need to be recreated in a very different milieu, right? One of the things that I learned coming from a large corporate into a startup is that while you have to make haste slowly. So in startups, as you know, you're always being pushed to do things. But at the same time, if you go and hire 50 people before you need to, that's going to be the biggest millstone around your neck. Right? So you have to be very careful and very deliberate about a few things like that. But at the same time, I think some of the corporate skills can be a great advantage, right? I mean, being able to interact with the ecosystem. All of those are also great skills. So it's a mixed bag.
So finally, Pallav, tell our viewers where they could find this book. Where could they buy this book?
Well, it's available on all platforms: Amazon, Flipkart, on Kindle. So I hope you will go and read it and give me your feedback. I'd love to hear from all of you.
And any plans for a second book after this?
So I mean, it is addicting. So I am already thinking of something around what I mentioned about the lesser heroes of the corporate world. So let's see how it goes.
Fantastic, Pallav. Thanks so much for your time. I think it was a delight having a chat, and I hope all our viewers enjoyed this conversation. And stay tuned for more interesting conversations in the future on this podcast.